What are some objections to the alleged divine origins of religious experiences? Here's Louis Poyman in his critique of the argument for religious experience given by C.D. Broad. One problem is that religious experience is typically private. You have the sense of God forgiving you or an angel speaking to you. But I, who am in the same room with you, neither hear nor see nor feel anything unusual. You are praying and suddenly feel transported by grace and sense the unity of all reality. I, who am sitting next to you, wonder at the strange expression on your face and ask you if something is wrong. Perhaps your brain is experiencing an altered chemical or electrical state. Louis Poyman has three main criticisms of Broad's strong justification thesis. Religious experiences are too variable to allow generalizations beyond personal experience. Think of the diversity of ways people describe the presence of God and gods in sacred writings. Accounts are more different than alike. The presence of the divine is felt, seen, heard in myriad forms. Number 2, justification for belief in the divine or divine revelations on the basis of religious experiences presumes already that some or all of these experiencers are not mistaken. Granting that these accounts are veridical just assumes what must be proved, namely, that these experiences are true. But we know people are prone to deception by themselves and others, wishful thinking, and a spectrum of schizophrenic and other psychotic disorders. Number 3, the veridicality, truthfulness of religious experiences cannot be checked like ordinary perceptual experiences and cannot be tested objectively. They are too subjective, too often unique. And these people are not available for psychological examination or cross-examination. We have no way to tell whether they are mistaken or even lying. Religious experiences are too variable to allow generalizations beyond the personal. Religious experiences are too different to permit anything reliable to be said about any divine presence. Also, their origins could be organic, no matter how profound or life-changing they are. Poyman, in the text, presents a list of religious experiences ranging from sensing the divine within, immanence, to seeing the divine as absolutely other, transcendent, and also that of the profound nothingness felt by an atheist. So there's too much diversity for there to be any real unanimity. In Buddhism, religious experiences feature no divine beings. In Hinduism and Christianity, you get multiple divine beings as human and animal avatars. In Judaism and Islam, we have one divine being appearing in many forms: burning bushes, pillars of clouds and fire, loud voices, shining suns, storms, thrones, chariots, etc. This diversity of religious experiences makes generalizing and concluding impossible, since nothing, no single unambiguous message or distinct, uncontroversial revelation is common. Justification for belief on the basis of religious experience is circular. Believing in a specific religious experience requires belief that religious experiences actually happen. Experiencers feel sincerely that they have had divine contact, so their belief about the cause of their experience is confirmed. But others often do not think this is enough. Such confirmation is not, however, essential to the rationality of one's beliefs. One should ask, what hypothesis best explains such experiences, given what is more reasonable to believe? Multiple interpretations with numerous plausible secular organic explanations must be dismissed prematurely in order to accept that a religious experience is genuine. Shall we just assume that any or most experiencers are not wishful thinking, hallucinating, or delusional? Religious experiences happen within the framework of a worldview. Thus, justifying a religious belief by a religious experience will not rest on premises that are self-evident to everyone, nor are there neutral criteria for assessing evidence. This is Poyman's third point. The veridicality of religious experiences cannot be checked. There are no objective criteria for assessing the truthfulness of religious experiences. Suppose religious experiences are sometimes genuine. Still, experiencers and believers cannot escape these problems. A. plausible alternative explanations exist. Psychosis, hallucinations, delusions, manipulations by others cause religious experiences too. Physical or organic processes can explain religious experiences. Suppose a drug or trauma or deranged mind produces a religious experience. We can't tell the difference between an undiagnosed psychotic and a genuine experiencer without an examination by a professional. These people are mostly inaccessible. People see and hear ghosts or voices when exposed to environmental toxins or hallucinogens, or enter altered states of consciousness, such as trances. Documented symptoms of carbon monoxide poisoning include listlessness, depression, dementia, emotional disturbances, and hallucinations. We now know that phenomena associated with haunted houses, including strange visions and sounds, feelings of dread, illness, are caused by carbon monoxide poisoning. Schizophrenia spectrum and other psychotic disorders are more prevalent than one might think. Psychosis is a loss of contact with reality that usually includes false beliefs about what is taking place or who one is, delusions or false beliefs that are firmly held but contradict reality and what is commonly held as true. Seeing or hearing things that aren't there, hallucinations or false sensory perceptions. These are referred to as positive symptoms. Negative symptoms like loss of motivation and social withdrawal can also occur. Psychosis affects 3 out of every 100 people. Schizophrenia is a long-term mental disorder involving a breakdown in the relation between thought, emotion, and behavior, leading to faulty perception, inappropriate actions and feelings, social or occupational dysfunction, sometimes a withdrawal from reality and personal relationships into fantasy and delusion, and a sense of mental fragmentation. Worldwide prevalence estimates range between 0.5% and 1%. Schizophrenia affects more than 21 million people worldwide. Religious experiences and psychotic episodes both appear to involve hallucinations and delusions. Schizophrenics often express religious delusions. For example, they believe they are divine beings, gods are talking to them, they are possessed by demons, etc. In studies of patients with schizophrenia who had been previously admitted to a hospital, 24% had religious delusions. Environmental factors such as significant stress, intense emotional situations, and disturbing or uncomfortable experiences can cause psychosis and schizophrenia. Some researchers wonder whether schizophrenia leads an individual to become more religious, or if intense religiosity, which is often egocentric and grandiose, triggers schizophrenia. People with schizophrenia who suffer from religious delusions are more religious than those who do not suffer from these delusions. Patients sometimes refuse treatment based on religious beliefs. Thus, untreated people are more prone to such experiences. Here are journal references. So this is Poiman's third point. The veridicality of religious experiences cannot be checked. There are no objective criteria for assessing the truthfulness of religious experiences. Accidental or systemic sample bias occurs in collecting examples of religious experiences. For example, there is no controlling for the unconscious desire for validation or confirmation in gathering and analyzing religious experiences. This enables believers to reject unfavorable explanations or steadfastly claim that religious experiences had by historically significant people are genuine. In statistics, a biased sample is any sample in which members of the population are not equally likely to be chosen. So the sample is not representative. When there is little or no control for deliberate or unconscious data selection, non-random factors such as finding only positive or supporting data or discounting negative data will skew interpretations of data. For example, experiencers self-select or put themselves in groups voluntarily and associate with people of similar beliefs. They are typically believers already and have a shared history of explaining phenomena according to popular or accepted religious worldviews. Here's Poiman's third point. There are no objective criteria for assessing the truthfulness of religious experiences, and examples are seriously biased. There are too few cases and no quality control. Confirmation bias is the tendency to search for or interpret new information in a way that confirms one's preconceptions, and to avoid data and interpretations which contradict prior beliefs. This bias allows experiencers to count only positive evidence and discount counter-evidence. For example, cherry-picking is the act of pointing at individual cases that seem to confirm a particular position while ignoring a significant portion of related cases that may contradict that position. There is a related issue here. Why is God so mysterious when God could be much more apparent? Why not talk to millions all at once in their own languages? What could count as a publicly verifiable religious experience? A loud trumpet call at 8 a.m. tomorrow and heard by all where God speaks a clear message might work. Suppose God wants to make it clear that we shouldn't be killing each other for whatever reason, and in particular, not because God wills it. So there are some very difficult problems here. Number one has to believe in the divine and then also believe in divine visits, so that one can call any religious experience veridical. That an event such as a divine visit is possible is not a good enough reason to believe that any specific religious experience is actually a divine visit. It is possible that gods and angels visit us, sure, but it is also possible that they don't. That an event is logically possible is the weakest sort of evidence available. Being a possible lottery winner does not justify thinking that you are an actual or even probable lottery winner. Number two, since religious experiences can either coincide with reality or not, one has to just believe that some of them are probably real in order to accept them as evidence of the divine. But there are more reasons and more probable reasons to believe religious experiences are not genuine. Number three, religious experiences being highly subjective are not repeatable or not repeatable enough, so observing them under controlled conditions where we can test alternate explanations is not possible. Delusions are true to believers, hallucinations are real to perceivers, but this does not count as evidence for the veridicality of religious experiences. What about the weak justification thesis? The weak justification thesis was this, that all or most religious experiences, such as those had by mystics, prophets, saints, and other visionaries, ought to be believed only by those who have had these experiences themselves. What is presumed by both the strong justification thesis and the weak justification thesis is this, that if a person has what seems to be an experience of X, unless there is some reason to believe otherwise, then that person is probably justified believing that X. The problems of the weak justification thesis are really just extensions of the problems of the strong justification thesis. For all I know, when I have a profound religious experience, I might be hallucinating or deceived or experiencing an undiagnosed psychosis. Self-delusion and deception is possible. I myself cannot rule these possibilities out. I can't be sure. For example, when God tells me to sacrifice my son to test my faith, what is happening is that I think I hear God telling me to sacrifice my son to prove my faith. But if I hear such a thing, and only I hear it, I need to consider that I might be out of my mind, or that someone is messing with me. The more I manage to convince myself that actually God wills this, the more we should worry. This is Bertrand Russell's point. The whole problem with the world is that fools and fanatics are always so certain of themselves, and wiser people so full of doubts. How do people sympathetic to the possibility of religious experience being divine in origin respond to criticism? Here are some responses from William James and others. This is William James. Mystical states or religious experiences offer only hypotheses, mere possibilities. They hold no authority and no superiority because they are inscrutable. These special visits are unavailable for analysis. Experiencers think mystical states are authoritative, and their direct experience makes them invulnerable to criticism, refutation. But non-experiencers have no obligation to take the mystical states of others authoritatively. Mystical states demonstrate that possibly some mystical states are also causes of what one believes. Possibly non-mystical or rationalistic consciousness is not the only source of truth. Mystical states and religious experiences are special, unique events. Experiencers are justified, says James, but the rest of us are not. Having been indoctrinated, baptized, blessed, makes an experiencer a privileged subject of a uniquely divine experience whom we cannot cross-examine. Here's another response. God is mysterious, so evidence the rest of us can examine is impossible. We can't know God or understand God's ways, so experiencers can't possibly give evidence that scientists with their skepticism and inferior instruments want. Okay, so here's an objection to that response. Suppose God is a mystery. If God is a mystery, then we can't know God. If we can't know God, then religious experience as evidence of God, of God's presence, is meaningless. We can't know it. Therefore, if God is a mystery, then religious experience is meaningless. If event X is a mystery, then only God knows its import, or only God can explain it. So religious experiences are of little worth, since we can only guess at their import, regardless of their source. Thus, religious experiences presume too much. People assume such experiences are divine, and then assume that they actually tell us something important about reality. Background beliefs corrupt as much as inform experience. You have to believe already in order to see God, angels, or demons. Psychologist Dan Gilbert talks about how people can misattribute the products of their own minds to powerful external agents. Gilbert describes research finding that what we believe already when we have strange experiences biases us. Even if other explanations also count for what you see, you are likely to ascribe external or supernatural agency to the strange experiences. Our tendency to underestimate the power of random processes to create curious order leads us to seek explanations where none are needed. For example, God provides an explanation for experiences that are otherwise baffling and inexplicable, but you have to believe in God to believe that God explains anything. Scientists by profession are more skeptical and less inclined to see supernatural causes of phenomena when observable, physical, or even random forces can explain curious events. What would it take to accept a supernatural cause for an event? Answer: non-experiencers, scientists and non-scientists alike, seek evidence that shows not only that a divine experience is possible, but also shows that no random or natural sources of such experiences are likely to be the cause. This is extremely hard to do. So, scientists remain skeptical. Maybe God causes curious order, miracles, religious experiences, maybe not. We just can't say for sure either way. That's what Dan Gilbert says. Is God nothing more than an attempt to explain order and good fortune by those who do not understand the mathematics of chance, the principles of self-organizing systems, or the psychology of the human mind? Much of what we attribute to God could be the product of our own minds. We overlook this other, plausible, not so unlikely explanation. Gilbert is not arguing that psychological evidence or science proves that there is no God, or that people do not have religious experiences, veridical or delusional. Still, people prefer religious experiences to be manifestations of the divine rather than human psychology. Alternate explanations that often get overlooked, downplayed, or dismissed. Misperception. Sometimes we mistakenly interpret real sense data. Hallucination, false perception, or delusion due to unclear circumstances, imagination, injury, neuropathy, psychosis, near-death, or out-of-body experiences after brain trauma. Brain trauma, diseases and disorders, tumors, temporal lobe epilepsy, dementia, Parkinson's, schizophrenia, mania, depression, confabulation, etc. Intoxication or poisoning, chemical or herbal, drugged, drunk, or high. Deception of oneself or by others. And we can't overlook fraud. Experiencers lie. Non-experiencers want to rule out these contenders before accepting divine intervention. Causes of religious experiences can be external or internal. Extraordinary experiences, religious or otherwise, can be externally caused or internally caused, real or imagined. Do extraterrestrials from other planets visit Earth, abduct, probe, or impregnate humans? Many people believe it, and some of these people are certain that they themselves have had these experiences. Aliens could be making contact with residents of Earth, but we don't just believe these people, however sincere or changed or important truth-speaking they are. We cannot be sure that such experiences are not delusional or misperceptions or hallucinations, or that the people suffer from brain trauma, diseases, or disorders. They could be the victims of a hoax. They could be liars. We could be their victims. Non-experiencers want to rule out other probable explanations of extraordinary events before accepting divine or extraterrestrial causes. This is the end of Learning Module 2 slideshow.